like a resident right here in Columbus. Anyway. I'd like to give acknowledgement to our 1999 Arnold Classic champion, also not able to make it here today. I understand he's overseas in Egypt, Nasser El Sanbadi. 2001, we saw something that we didn't really see to that point. We saw an Olympia champion throw his hat in the Arnold Classic ring, and of course he came out the victor. 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. Three-time was the charm for our next winner, and 4-time on the Olympia stage as well. Jay Cutler. And Jay's over at the Expo, so hopefully he'll be able to join us as we proceed on. I think you'll know this next gentleman because he won for a record-tying 4th time just last night. A former Olympian champion as well in 2008, the Blade, Dexter Jackson. 2007 saw dominance on stage, and of course, when we use the word dominant in this sport, it can only belong to one man, the Dominican dominator himself. Where's Big Vic? Victor Martinez. Two-time Arnold Classic champion and pushing Phil Heath all the way to the winner's circle this past season. The Predator, Kai Green. And another 2-time champion. He came back to fight every odd that there was to be had in an injury that could have ended any normal mortal's career. But everybody knows he's anything but normal. Ladies and gentlemen, Branch Warren. Here you have it, folks. History in the making, 25 years of excellence here at the Arnold. And of course, we've got most of the champions assembled on stage. We're going to start just by the little loose round table. All these guys have known each other for many years and have traveled across the globe in bodybuilding competitions and appearances throughout the world. I want to start right with our first champion, Rich Gasperi. Rich, first, congratulations. Last night, recipient of the Arnold Classic Lifetime Achievement Award. And you've seen the names, of course, on that list, Rich, before yours, and it's quite an impressive list of people in this game that have contributed in many ways to the sport of bodybuilding. How did it feel, Rich, to be the recipient this year of that award?
I'm still feeling it. It was a great honor to get that award and a privilege to be in that class of people. You know, to be the Lifetime Achievement Award, to be recognized as the bodybuilder, but then going after bodybuilding and, you know, working hard to build my business and continue on. It's a great feeling.
Rich, we talked a little bit last night and did an interview for the worldwide telecast on bodybuilding.com, and I had to ask you, and I'm going to ask you, of course, here for our live audience here today, which was tougher, Rich, winning that competition in 1989 or giving that acceptance speech?
Well, it's a lot more training to win the show. You know, it was really important for me to, you know, in my speech to really have people understand, you know my experiences and my passion and what it really meant to get this Lifetime Achievement Award. So I was a bit nervous because I practiced that speech in my head many times to let people know, and I didn't want to get Arnold upset when I did an impersonation of him when I met him as a 15-year-old kid.
It's kind of a rite of passage, Rich. You got to do an Arnold imitation. And, he actually enjoys it. He gets a big kick out of it. And I know last year at the seminar, we had a little bit of fun, and we actually went to the audience for Arnold impersonations, and he was going to actually pick the best one. And I don't know who was in attendance last year, but it was, you couldn't script anything better. A guy stands up and he says, well, I kind of have an unfair advantage because I'm from Austria. So, okay, great. You know, so go ahead, you know, and he does this horrendous imitation. And I look, and then he starts doing it in German, and I look at Arnold, and I says, what did he say? And he says, I don't have any idea. But, you know, so Arnold always a good spirit in that. But, Rich, we always have a lot of fun. You and I, we're all over the place, you know, throughout the years. Now, we're both Italian. We both got dark hair. We're both big bodybuilders and all that. But the funny thing is this is a true story for everybody. We were at the Olympia this past year, and I was down off the stage in between some of the events that were going on. And as I'm standing there talking to a couple of my friends, you kind of sense somebody standing there and want a picture. You know, we've all been there. And so I finally turned and I said, you know, how you doing? He says, oh, you know, hey, how you doing? I don't want to interrupt with you and your friends. I said, no, that's okay. You know, he says, I just want to say, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I've been a fan for years. I've been following you, and I've seen you on the Olympia stage and all this. And I said, oh, you know, great, that's fantastic. I appreciate that. And he says, you mind if I get a picture? I said, sure, you know, go ahead. So we do the obligatory thumbs up pose, and he says, well, you know, I don't want to bother you, sir. And, I just want to say I'm a big fan. I really appreciate it. And I said, oh, that's okay. You know, that's fine. And he says, okay, well, I just want to say thanks a lot, Mr. Gaspari. True story. So, of course, I didn't have the heart to tell him, so I just said thanks. How about a big hand? Rich Gaspari, ladies and gentlemen. You pass that mic right to the gentleman next to you, Mike Ashley. Welcome back to the Arnold Classic. Thank you. Mike, take us back to 1990 when you won that title. You're on stage. Some of the very gentlemen sitting right here sharing that stage with you. But take me back to 1990 and your thoughts as that announcement came down and all of a sudden you were the champion.
Well, of course, the night it actually happened, I was excited with the announcement, and I was extremely excited as it was. But going home and getting the news the following few days, I mean, I could have jumped the ceiling and like any basketball player and do things that I never thought I could do, because to me, and I know a lot of competitors probably feel the same way, to me, Arnold Classic is the second largest bodybuilding show with respect to the Olympia in terms of prestige, but to me the Arnold Classic is the largest bodybuilding show in the world. And being able to be acknowledged as a winner of the Arnold Classic is something that I take outside of the sport of bodybuilding and in my everyday life. When people say, oh, that's Mike Ashley, you won the Arnold Classic, it enhanced my credibility. So each and every one of these athletes here in our sport were acknowledged as being, you know, very outstanding athletes, but in our everyday life, like I have a business in Fort Lauderdale right now, and you know, people, oh, I Googled you. I had this one attorney that said, I Googled you and I found out that you did this, you did that. But winning the Arnold Classic and knowing what it is today, being one of the guys that have actually won it has always really elevated the credibility. And within me, it's something for all the hard work that each and every one of us put into it, to be actually acknowledged as the winner of that event is something that's just memorable. And you know, I really appreciate it, and will continue to appreciate the experience.
Anyway. Like, do you still follow the sport today? I mean, do you still follow the, you know, the new guys that are up there now, and any part of the circuit, the competitions, the Olympia?
You know, I'm in and out. There are certain guys that, you know, I follow up what's going on with them more than others, some of the old timers. And not because Dexter won last night, but I tell you, I met Dexter years ago. I saw him in the Southern State in South Florida, and I said, you're going to be a phenomenal pro. And, you know, he was very thankful. At that time, you know, I was still considered, you know, it was many years ago, and when I looked at his physique, you know, I said, this guy, he has the balance from top to bottom, the nice small waistline, the whole 9 yards. But the thing about it is, there are various competitors, I could say, Vince Taylor, you know, there's a number of guys that I've actually watched, and when I got out of the sport, I still continue to watch them. Like last night, there's an individual that, Cedric, I don't know very much about him, but I want to tell you, he's going to be something to reckon with if he continues to be dedicated and committed to the sport. So there are people, like a guy like Branch Warren, you know, he in some ways reminds me of Rich Gaspari back in the old days, the freakish look that he had. And you know, you look at these guys and you wonder what's going on. You know, our current Mr. Olympia, he's another one. When he came on the scene for so developed and such a young person, you know, I said, hey, it's going to be phenomenal. Kai Green, the freaky posing routines that he do. So there are parts of, you know, that I see today. Like me, I loved being on stage. And, you know, they called him Biggie Small last night. When I saw him do his posing routine, I get touched watching these guys. So even though I no longer compete, I work with the everyday population now, I still get goosebumps when I sit in the audience and watch these guys. And at the same time, when I see a guy up there that doesn't really prepare himself in terms of his posing routine, I'm like, this is the top, the pinnacle. And, you know, that kind of irks me too. But I mean, there are guys on this stage today that are still competing, and hey, how did he do in this show? Like, what happened at the Masters? I wasn't able to go. Sean wanted to do an interview with me. I was able to make it to the interview, but I wasn't able to see the show. But I still wondered how so-and-so looked at that event. So I'm sure each and every one of us, it's not just about us, it's about all of us. We all make the sport what it is today. And so, regardless, sometimes on the stage, we might be, for that moment, you know, I gotta beat his butt, you know, regardless. I remember back in 1990, Arnold beat me at Sean beat me at the Iron Man, and I was like, hey, but I heard he made a comment, that guy Ashley is right on my ass. You know, it was just, you know, that type of feeling, and it's like, dude, Gary Stridham was another one. I was at Night of the Champions, he beat me, but I wanted him so bad. Nothing personal, but it's competition. That feeling remains within me. It remains within me. It comes out in business, like Rich Gaspar was talking about, the drive. And for each and every one of you out there, that motivation and the love for whatever sport you do, it's always remained within you. And so, you know, I wish all of these guys would continue to compete the very best. And I will always, I don't know, I get to 70, 80, 90, I was like, yeah, I remember I used to do that. I look over there, that guy's awesome, man. You see those biceps? You know, you're always going to be having that love for it. It's never going to leave.
You have to use that voice when you do that?
Yeah, because that may be how I will sound when I get to 90, you know, you never know.
Mike Ashley, everybody. Well, here's a guy, no stranger to have a microphone in his hand. My fellow guys over at MD. And Sean, first, congratulations on hosting the amateur portion of the event, which was 700 plus deep of names that had more consonants than vowels. But one of the things you can never debate, Sean, is obviously your greatness in the sport. 12 years, I believe it is, in the top 5 of the Olympia. Arguably one of the greatest short bodybuilders of all time. And by short, I mean not tall.
Thank you, Bob.
The great Sean Ray. Thank you, Sean. Sean, bring me back to your Arnold Classic experience. You know, now the Olympia was always your pursuit. You know, one of the criticisms over the years, of course, was that, you know, you didn't compete much on the circuit. You didn't do a lot of the Grand Prix shows, that you just focused on the Olympia. But to your credit, you said, that's the title I want. I'm not interested in winning the Grand Prix. I'm not interested in the Night of the Champions. I want to win the Olympia. But you did win the Arnold.
Yeah, I did. And just to preface it, my first big experience with seeing like the real thing was when I was 20 years old. I won a team national title in '85.
Yeah, I know.
When I put you to rest in the heavyweight division in Atlanta.
Still gotta remind me.
Never forget it, like it was yesterday.
I'm still pissed about that.
Politics. But my first real experience when I really knew that this was something that I could do, I was in the gym training. I just came back from winning the Junior World Championships in Australia, and in comes Rich Gaspari, 20 years old. He's coming off of the Mr. Olympia to do his Gaspari DVDs or video, or whatever he was doing his first time out. And he was, I mean, to see that he was kind of short, gave him some inspiration, because I realized that maybe all I had to do was get a little bit bigger, but I'm talking about a guy that's like, just came off third in the Olympia. But my training partner was like, you can be up there with this guy one day. And that's when I really started kind of taking it seriously. And of course, in '87, I earned my pro card. In '88, I was on the same stage as Gaspari. From a different perspective, I was like 13th at the back of the pack, watching Rich get another second runner-up, or first runner-up. But I knew then that that's what I wanted to do because I kind of saw that Gaspari was doing it and I thought it was achievable. Another guy, Vince Taylor, came in the gym. I'm 17 years old training, and he comes in with the guy that introduced me to bodybuilding, which was John Brown. He came over from Germany, and John was telling Vince he wanted to introduce him to me. And we turned around, and some years later, we're standing on stage at the national championships competing. I won in '87, and Vince won it in '88. But those times were so real because it just seems like it's so unattainable. To see Gaspari on stage at the '86 Olympia and to think one day, 2 years later, I'd be standing on stage with him, I couldn't really get my arms around it, but the persistence and the dedication happened. And of course, in 1990, coming off of the Ironman competition, like Mike said, I mean, Mike had always professed to being a natural bodybuilder, and coming into, and still, today, you're still natural, that's nice. But he was coming into that Ironman competition, the first ever Arnold Classic title was being drug tested, the first time they ever had a comprehensive drug test. I came off the victory at the Ironman and came here to Columbus, Ohio, and went through the whole process of winning the show. I think it was kind of done a little bit backwards. They should have got the drug test back, the results before the competition. Fortunately, it came back a week later. I was on tour doing seminars in Canada, and they told me that I had failed the drug test.
Well, that B12 will get you.
Yeah, the B12 didn't really, you know, I joined it, I kind of became the Ben Johnson of bodybuilding. You know, I was 204 pounds, and, you know, I felt like everything that I'd worked for just kind of got snatched away. And, you know, when Wayne DeMillia called me up to send the trophy back so that Mike could get it, I think you were living in Arizona at the time, it was twofold because I had that thrill of victory and the agony of defeat all in 1 week, and I had to process that. I was 23 years old.
Mike, did he pack it up nice or you just throw it in the box? So you got it was in 10 pieces.
You know, I was really not analyzing whether it was packed right or packed wrong. The one thing that really made an impact to me, I got what I deserved, because I felt I should have won.
Mike, while you have the mic in your hand, let me just ask you this. Did you feel like it ever took away from the victory at all? Like Sean says, I mean, listen, they want to put tests out there, whatever. You know, everybody's in the same boat. You know, we're all subject to the same rules and regulations. And obviously that should have been, you know, the car should have been before the horse, but do you think it took away a little bit that you weren't on stage, you know, to receive that acknowledgement that, you know, you got it kind of after the fact?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, when they brought us back 5 years ago, I said, I'm finally acknowledged properly by being on stage in front of the fans, actually being acknowledged for winning that event. And my only disappointment was that it wasn't Sean's fault. He had nothing to do with it. He was a competitor, and he did what he had to do. I did what I had to do, but I felt the results should have been calculated, and if there was a person that did not pass a drug test, that should have been done before the event, because I would go down as being the Arnold Classic winner, but as you guys saw last night, they were showing the later videos, they never showed me winning mine. And you know, that within itself is a little bit of disappointment, but there's a lot more that came after that took care of that whole aspect of it.
And Sean, let me ask you on your end, because you had the opposite, obviously. You were acknowledged as the winner, and then of course, you got the rug pulled out from under your feet with, hey, you didn't pass this test, you know. And then you had, of course, 1,000 questions in your mind. Well, how was this test handled, you know, and what happened with that? And, so, you know, your thoughts on that?
Well, it was twofold because I was just beginning my bodybuilding career. I came off a week prior, winning the Pro Ironman Championships in Los Angeles in front of my hometown fans, so everyone could see my body of work up until that point, and getting on a plane and coming here to Columbus, Ohio, having dinner with Arnold and Maria, and that trophy sitting there. And of course, I'm on tour out of the country, and I get this phone call. There's really nothing I can do about it. And when I got home, you know, I had to take the trophy from my mom's mantle off the fireplace, and you know, I had to explain to her that it was going to Arizona. I didn't know Mike. We weren't friends. We didn't have communication. There was no Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. So I took a lot of pictures with that trophy before I had to pack it up and take it to Gold's Gym Venice. But I went there with a different type of resolve, a different type of determination, looking at my career and having to, you know, put it in perspective. I had already spent the prize money. Arnold had created an opportunity that I could buy a house instead of get an apartment. So I had my stuff kind of evaporated. So my first phone call was to Joe Weider to find out what do I do next. You know, I failed the test. I'm thinking this is it for me. My career's over. It's barely beginning. And he said, we have another competition coming up in September. It's something called the Mr. Olympia. Remember that? Well, you have another chance to redeem yourself, we're going to be drug testing that and do it right this time. And of course, I went in there. By the way, this information trickled out very slowly. It was like in May or June, people were finding out that this was kind of a changing of the guard. And like Mike said, he never got the cover shot on the magazine and all that other stuff. But I was already training for the Mr. Olympia, and I got third place at the 1990 Mr. Olympia, and I passed the drug test. And I just remembered it took me back to when I saw Gaspari in '86 getting third, and now I'm getting third. I'm being acknowledged as one of the top 3 bodybuilders in the world. So there was only one thing left to do, and that's to come back to Columbus, Ohio. I came back in '91, and I won the competition. And it was many years before me and Mike actually crossed paths, but I never harbored anything with Mike. I always thought that the way they handled the test results here in Columbus was clunky. They fixed that in Chicago in 1990. They got the results back. There were 6 bodybuilders that weren't able to get on that stage that I trained to be. I wanted to stand next to Barry DeMay. He was like third in the 1988 Olympia. I wanted to be up there with the flexing Dutchman. Vince Comerford wasn't able to come out on stage. Mohammed Ben Aziza was a guy that I was training to beat. He just beat Dorian Yates at the New York Night of Champions in 1990. That was a guy I needed to help validate my career. He didn't get on stage at the 90 Olympia. So coming back in '91 and winning it and getting that $70,000 for me was the highlight of my bodybuilding career. If nothing ever happened after that for me, I would have been fine with it. But it was also at that time that I realized that I was trying to be Mr. Olympia, and that was where I was going to set my sights, and I focused solely on that. '96, I jumped back in on an 8-week competition preparation to get smoked by Flex and Paul Dillette and the Ironman and the Arnold Classic, and Vince Taylor got me at that show too. But I realized I was trying to be Mr. Olympia, and that's where my focus was. But my roots are here. This is my 25th consecutive Arnold Classic. I've never missed one. I've supported Arnold's, what he's been doing in the sport. The only competition I missed was the first one in Madrid, and I went this past year to Madrid. So I'm a huge Arnold Classic fan. Like Mike said, I'm a fan of the sport. I mean, these guys, what they're doing, Kai Green, Branch, I'm right there with them because I can't do it physically anymore. I've got other things going on. But when they're up there, I know what they're going through. What Dexter's going through right now, he's got a little bit of stomach problems because of the food he ate. I mean, I've been there the day after a competition. So to come back here, be reunited with the young, or I should say the young and the old, it's a whole other level of participation. You got to understand, I'm probably the biggest bodybuilding fan you're ever going to meet. And I pride myself with Bob as being kind of a historian. So what I do in the capacity that I do it with, that Steve Leckman gives me a platform, and muscular development, is kind of a dream job for me because I would do it for free, and to make money and do something that you're passionate about. That's why, I want to take that back, Steve. I won't do it for free. But the Arnold Classic it probably validates me more than being a top 5 Olympian for 12 consecutive years. Being an Arnold Classic, this is my Olympia for me. This is it, and I think we all kind of share in that.
And he ain't kidding, folks. Because let me explain something to you. Sean has never had what we all call a real job.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. And honestly, we joke all the time about it, but he's never had a job outside of bodybuilding. I mean, this is it, for a lot of us. But for you in particular, that's been it.
I got my PhD very early. Turned pro. Back in the days of me and Rich, we were turning pro at like 20, 21, 22 years old. It doesn't happen. It's a rarity that you see that. But I was in college when I was in my first Mr. Olympia. I came back on that Monday, and I was sitting in a classroom doing my college stuff. But I thought, what am I doing in this classroom when I want to be in the gym? I'm trying to become Mr. Olympia. And, I made up my mind real early on that this is what I want to do. So in '89, coming here and watching Rich win, and now watching it grow, I'm just happy to be a part of this elite group of bodybuilders.
Thank you. Sean Ray. All right, well, we had one Terminator on stage earlier and another Terminator on stage right now, an Arnold Classic champion. Vince Taylor is in the house. Thank you. Vince, you had a few nicknames throughout your career, the Terminator being one, the Quiet Storm, but you were anything but quiet on the Arnold Classic stage because you are still known to this day as one of the best, the most entertaining presenters, posers, whatever tagline you want to give it, in the history of the sport. And people today still emulate. I know you've seen many imitations, but you can't duplicate the great Vince Taylor. But tell me about your experience at the Arnold, some of those great routines that you put on, and how you actually came up with some of these ideas, like the Terminator routine.
Flex just reminded me, especially telling me you can't dance at all, and that's so true. Yeah, I got to just simply say that this part of history, being able to relive it, being able to walk back in time, I think each one of my partners right here, when we walked out on that stage, well, at least from this end down, that stopped competing, you know, we got that thrill again. You know, we're backstage looking at that mirror we saw for years ago, looking at people, seeing if they're in shape or not. I mean, I forgot myself, we had a magic hug in bodybuilding. You know, if we walk up to each one of these guys, they know, put my hand around you, squeeze your lower back. Hey, you know, buddy? Oh, he in shape. You know, he's not in shape. He ain't ready. You know, we had those little times. That's something we always did. So, you know, the Arnold Classic, you know, this was a monstrous event. For me, it's like a fairy tale that came true. I laugh because when I look around, I'm the oldest guy on this stage. You know, when I started competing, I lived in Berlin, Germany, and when I picked up my first iron was 1983. You know, we would sit around the room and I was never in the Army. I worked for the Army as a weapons specialist. As some friends at the motor pool, we would go over and, man, we'd pick up the magazines, the Muscle and Fitness that would take 6 months to get to Germany. And we'd flip through all these things and try to become bodybuilders. Richie, Lee Haney, Samir Banu, all these names that were just amazing. And we sit around just looking like, wow, this guy here, what did this guy train like? Let's go try this. You know, I'm 27 years old. I'm thinking I'm gonna be a bodybuilder. I never had the interest of being Mr. Olympia. Anything was in my cards. I mean, when I first got my wake up to bodybuilding was when Sean just mentioned, a friend of ours both, he was posing in Berlin. And I watched him pose, and John Brown was electrifying, amazing. Okay, and I'm like, he looked at me and said, dude, Taylor, you can do this sport. I'm like, okay, let me try it. So he put me on a diet, and I said, dude, you gotta eat hamburger. I've been eating hamburger and Coca-Cola and ketchup for about 25 years. That's my diet. You know, I believe in the beef. So I'm not a chicken, I'm not a fish guy. When you see me eat for competitions, unlike most of these guys right here, and a lot of these guys never believe me, but what do you eat for a diet? You'll find me at Burger King. I am not about to eat that chicken and that rice, okay? I'm telling you right now. So those of you guys, I've seen on the internet lately, somebody tried to dog my mother out, commenting about some kind of story that she told, and they called her up and asked how does this prepare. I'm in Berlin, she's over here in America, in Maryland. You know, and it's like, you know, this is what my son eats. Ah, you're wrong, you're lying, you're this, you're that. Coca-Cola, red meat, and ketchup. Word, believe it. But let me get back to the thing real quick. That's just being real, okay? That's Vince Taylor. But when I got involved in this, and like I said, I was 27 years old, when I met John Brown, I said, wow, I'm gonna try this. You know, I saw Richie and many magazines and Lee Haney, these were idols, I'm telling you, craziness. And when I flew to California and got into the gym, and John introduced me and said, dude, Taylor, why don't you meet this little kid here, youngest teenager in the world, baddest man in the world. That's when I met Sean. 17 years old, I'm 27. I'm going home, thrilled. Until I seen John Brown train. He was using like 400 some pounds on the bench press, and I said, I'll never be a bodybuilder, and I left. Okay, that was it. Okay, that's the story behind that. But the accumulation of Vince the Prince, Lonnie Tieper gave me that name because I think, for me, it was a fairy tale. I never aspired to be Mr. Olympia. I never aspired to have 22, 24 world titles. I never aspired to have 5 Masters championships. I never aspired to win the Arnold Classic. I never aspired to be a Terminator and change poses like you've never seen them before. But that was all an evolution because the guys that I met just fueled me. You know, you can, you will, you won't. But I was able to do a lot of things. And as this whole lineup went down around this corner, man, these guys are fantastic. I'm a fan like all of you guys. It is amazing for me to be able to sit here. You know, I talk about Big Nuke, Ronnie Coleman. I mean, that's my, look, Arnold sat here today, I gotta tell you. Arnold sat here today, but to me, that's the greatest bodybuilder in history. Okay, that's my choice. All right? That's my choice. Y'all can disagree or not, whatever. That's my choice. All right, so let me shut it down. It's just happy to be here.
Well, Vince, I've got to say, you got balls. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, Vince. Now, I know, obviously, what you got hanging around your neck there, maybe as most of the guys have that aren't competing anymore, they've gone on to many different ventures, but still involved in the sport, as Rich Gasperi is, as you know, Sean is on the other end with MD and all his coverage of the sport. But what do you got going, Vince?
Yeah, this is something that I'm doing outside of my colleagues. These guys have been very successful in the nutrition business and supplementation. You know, The three things in bodybuilding is eat, sleep, and train. You know, my concentration, my contribution to what I'm trying to do to change the sport and to change people's lives are to increase in a different training aspect. I've created what I call the Powerball 50s. This is a new style hand grip that I'm thinking is going to replace every cylinder handle that you have in the world. When we walk into a gym, we got a bar, microphone, a barbell and a dumbbell. Here it is. My Powerball 50s allows you to not create this form-fitting grip as such. This is what you're doing. These grips fit in the finger fold. They're designed to create a different passageway of muscle stimulation. I got a cable and I got a home version here that I call Powerball Band 50s. These are gym versions. You take these and you place these on every handle in the gym. What they allow you to do is isolate and separate muscle like you never had before. I'm in the business of isolation and contraction, not gripping and lifting. That's what we do from now. There's no change out there. I will put you in front of a cable exercise machine, work your entire body with a cable resistance handle. And this is the Powerball 50 Smart Grip handle. And what these things do is simply redivert resistance. I will put at least an inch on your bicep, tricep within 45 days if you allow it to work. And I'm using less than 20 pounds, man, woman, and child. So these are the Powerball 50s. They're about ready to launch around the world, and it's going to change, believe me, the way you handle weights, and to understand that you don't need 70, 80 pounds to create any kind of bicep mass. I'm a cable guy. I'm in the gym with 2 plates when I put these on the cable machine, and they will blow your biceps, triceps, traps, anything you work out, because you are now in charge of the resistance. The resistance is not in charge of you. Powerball 50s.
Well, there you have it, folks. Grab your ball and use your ass to the gym. You can use that tag if you want. It depends on your price. What? Clock. Yes. Don't have them. I'm going to continue. These people are entertained. Now, you're not entertained. Listen, we got stories for days, so let's keep moving on. But what can you say? 4-time classic champion. The man who now co-owns that title and has owned it on his own. Giving the stink eye right now to next. The great Flex Wheeler. Flex, as the theme of the weekend, of course, has been, can Dexter equal that great record set by Flex Wheeler years ago? And of course, he has, winning that convincingly last night. You've been very pro-Dexter, actually, as it is, to tie this title. And I know you've actually rooted him on. You haven't, you're not one of those guys who's kind of guarding that record. Now, of course, that's to tie the record. I don't know if you'll be that enthusiastic if he goes for 5, but... give me your thoughts, Flex, on holding that title for so many years and Dexter now putting himself as an equal with you.
Well, guys have set records before me at the Arnold Classic, winning 2 championships and 3 and stuff like that. So, in my opinion, I've always been a competitor and more or less a predator, about competing. I loathe to lose. I mean, it's the worst setback in the world because I've always looked at everything as there's first place and there's last place. There's no second place. Nobody cares about who's second. But records are, made to be broken. So my answer always, even when I had 3 championships and with the Ironman that they don't have anymore, that I have 5 championships, I've always said that I hope that at least I'm there to witness whoever ties or breaks my record and be able to shake their hand. So for that to happen, for a person who I consider a dear friend of mine, it was just an honor to root him on, and I hope that he can do it. Now, we've had private words, about whether he needs to go for 5 or not, and I just not going to let that to happen. But no, I'm very proud of Dexter for what he's achieved and where he started, and to be able to be here and witness him tie my record is just an honor.
Flex, we talked about this prior to this meeting. Does it make a difference now with more Arnold Classic championships? Because in the old days, there was only one Arnold Classic, which of course you won 4 times. Well, now you've got Brazil, and you've got Spain, and now possibly Africa, and the globalization of the Arnold. But to you, in order to beat that record of 5, if Dexter won the Brazilian Arnold, does that count?
yes and no. Overall, he would have more titles. The reason I say no is because I did it here in Columbus, competed in the Arnold Classic 6 times and won in 4 of them. I did it here, which he can do if he chooses to. Like some of the other guys, like Vince was saying, I just never believed in myself of being an Olympian champion. But coming into the Arnold, you know, I always felt that I was at home. And when I came to the show, for whatever reason, I always felt that this is my show for somebody else to come and take. Now, unfortunately, my friend to my left here came and took one from me, and was it 95? But I always really felt comfortable here. I always gauged myself of coming into the Arnold Classic. So to answer that question, unfortunately not. But he can achieve that. And there's a couple other guys on stage who can actually tie and break the record also. But no, you have to do it in the same alignment that I did it if you're going to break that record.
Very fair. Flex Wheeler. Flex, you were very much at home, as you said, on the stage here in Columbus. Mike Francois, winner of the 95 ASC. You are home. You're a local boy done good right here in Columbus.
Yeah, originally from Iowa, actually, but moved here and since 90, I've been here, so yeah.
So setting the table for that victory. You had the great Flex Wheeler coming in, multi-titles, Olympia contender, all that. Take me back to 95 and your experience with competing on that stage and beating the legs of the great Flex Wheeler and company.
Just like these guys, I never set out. I was studying to be a Catholic priest, and I never set out in a million years to be.
Anyway, that's a big left and right. Catholic priest, pro bodybuilder.
Pole dancing thing earlier and all that. So, yeah. So anyway, I never in a million years thought I'd ever be a bodybuilder or anything like that. So for me to even be on stage competing anywhere, let alone against these kind of guys, to me it was a dream. Not even really a dream come true because I never even dreamt it. And so it was just amazing that it actually did happen. A great feeling when it did, and I'm just glad that I was able to do it.
Like when you came into the show, and obviously you were in great shape and you were a contender in many of the shows you were in your day when you were competing. But on that specific competition, prejudging went on, did you believe that you could pull this out, or did you think, you know, it's closer? Or did you think maybe, you know what, I don't think I can beat this guy?
Well, I never went into anything, I would never tell anybody this before, but I never went into a competition thinking I wasn't the best, that I could win. I just can't train hard and put my life into it if I thought anything other than that. That's the way I was. But, you know, given the fact that he won so many times and that he is who he is, I mean, in my mind, he's the underground most good. I mean, he's got the physique, he's just got it. But it's one of those things where I didn't know for sure, you know, then it was announced, it was just overjoyed. I mean, I just don't know what to explain it.
Could it?
I don't know if you remember, but we were standing backstage, and you know, for some reason I felt this present. 2005, I had my car accident in 2004, so I was still trying to get back to my. Oh, 1990. Yeah, sorry about that.
Sean knows every year of everything, believe me.
But I remember standing next to Mike, and I said, you know what? You're here to win the show, aren't you? He goes, oh no, Flex, don't say that. But I felt his presence, and I knew that I wasn't spot on, but I sincerely felt his presence. So I just thought that I would be able to just, you know, barrage him and mess with him on stage and play with his mind and be able to win. But I knew that I felt your presence. I don't know, remember if you remember me saying that to you or not.
I remember something about don't take my check.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But the money wasn't, you know, you think about that when you're up there competing, man, you just want to win. So I think that's a commonality of everybody. I mean, everyone just wants to win. I mean, you just want to win. And you hate losing. And that's what drives everybody up.
Well, the one thing all the IFBB pro bodybuilders share in the world, the one commonality we all have is not one of us ever got into the sport for the money.
Yeah.
Although probably, wait a minute, Mike says, wait a minute, I don't know about that. Pays more than the priesthood.
Yeah, a little bit more. Different both.
All right, Mike Francois, everybody. Yeah, buddy. 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, the big nasty. It's like doing Arnold imitations of Arnold. You can't help but talk to Ronnie and you know, lightweight, you know, and all that kind of. You just got to do it.
But first of all, as you can
going through a little something. It's hard enough for me to try to talk when I got my regular high-pitched voice. So this one is a lot more difficult. So I won't try to. Hopefully, I can save you some time and get out of here on time, like the guy was just saying. But I just want to say a couple of things, and hopefully I can pass it on to the next guy. First of all, I'd like to thank Vince for his acknowledgement. I should have said something first. I'd like to thank God for this opportunity and for being here today. None of this would be possible without him, and all praise go out to him. Then I'd like to thank Vince for it.
First God, then Vince. That should always be your. Yeah, right, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you for this acknowledgement. The other thing I like to point out that two things I like to credit for my success. Number one, Brian Dawson for getting me into this sport. I never wanted to be a bodybuilder, and I was a full-time police officer, and that's what I thought I was going to be. Number two, I like to. I'm trying to give some people some credit for my success. Brian Dawson, and next goes out to Flex Wheeler. Flex Wheeler is the one that took me to the next level in my bodybuilding career. And the other acknowledgement I want to give out to is Flex Wheeler for taking me to the next level in my bodybuilding career. sorry about this, Flex, but I know you don't want to hear this, but this is the truth. And the third thing I like to say is that back before I was born, of course I heard this on TV. I heard this guy, McGregor, said that he was the luckiest man alive. Well, I think I'm taking his place now by being the luckiest man alive.
I'm just going to give you one question because I know, like you say, your voice is going, so I'm going to keep it real short for you. But you did something that was basically unthinkable at the time. You were the reigning Mr. Olympia, a multi-time at that point, and decided to win the Arnold. And a lot of people criticized you at that point before the show. It's something you just wouldn't do. It was bodybuilding blasphemy to think that you would, put the Olympia title up for grabs, so to say, by possibly allowing somebody to come in there, steal your thunder, and lose a competition while being the champ. But you didn't care, and you wanted. But why did you want an Arnold Classic title while you were Mr. Olympia?
Well, I always wanted to have one of the most prestigious titles in bodybuilding, and I thought that the Arnold Classic was one of the most prestigious titles in bodybuilding. So that's the kind of reason why I chose to try to get one of these.
All right, let's give him a break. Ronnie Coleman. All right, well, the champ is in the house. The Blade, Dexter Jackson, your new Arnold Classic champion. Dex, a lot was made this year about you going in this competition for obvious reasons, as we've already talked about. Flex Wheeler with 4 titles, you with 3, and a almost virtual lock to put this title in, because everybody knew that you had everybody knew that the physique we've seen over the last year or so now, almost a resurgence in Dexter Jackson. Had a little hitch in there, about 3 years ago, and all of a sudden people write Dexter off. That, maybe his time has come, maybe he's getting a little old, maybe, whatever. But all you did was kind of reinvent yourself. All of a sudden you got some new training with Charles Glass. All of a sudden, you got a new team in place. And all of a sudden you got some renewed life. And the Masters Olympia title, World Championships last year, Masters Olympia this year, a great showing at the Olympia. And obviously now you share the stage with the great Flex Wheeler with 4 titles. Give me your thoughts, Dex, on coming into the show and finally getting that acknowledgement.
Well, first of all, I'd like to apologize to you guys. I know you see me up and nodding off. I'm so tired. I haven't slept in days, and last night was no exception.